The honor of the Judoon. It was obvious to everyone that the doctor was serious. Just a minute, said Carthers. He seems to be keen on using His Majesty and the British Empire. If he kills him, how will he carry out his plan? No problem, said the doctor. Master Plan B. He'll kill us all and try to recruit some other crowned head. He'll find one somewhere. Kansler, Tsar, whoever. The king nodded. You're right, damn it. King Willie will probably jump at it. Martha looked at Carthers. Cousin Willie? The German Chrysler, the king whispered, as he said, all the royals are related. Very well, said the king. For a moment, I'll pretend to agree. Brilliant, said the doctor, but don't give in too easily. I want you to demand a few things first. When he finished talking to the king, the doctor turned to Martha and Carthers. Now quickly, there's not much time. Tell me everything you learned about the colonier. They're calling themselves the Cosmic Peacemakers, began Martha. They've got this hidden lab in Docklands, in a place called Black Dog Lane. Challoner returned a few minutes later, with a squad of Judoon at his heels. He found the king standing in the center of the room and the others grouped behind him. I've decided to cooperate with your excellent plan, said the king grandly. The doctor has convinced me that it is fitting that the British Empire should rule the rest of the world. I'm delighted to hear it, your majesty. I have 2 conditions. Challoner looked wary. Name them. You must return Belmore Castle to its proper place immediately. It shall be done. The doctor has agreed to act as my personal agent in this matter. He must be allowed to return to London by his own means and represent me there. Challoner seemed doubtful. It was clear that he was still not sure about the doctor. Oh, come on, said the doctor. You've got the king, the castle, and the Judoon. What harm can I possibly do on my own? If I go to London, I can smooth the way for you, do the groundwork, set things up, prepare for His Majesty's return, and the brooding speech that he will have to give to follow. He still has to sell your idea to Parliament, you know. If we're going to avoid all these annoying political arguments, lots of lobbying to be done. Very well, said Challoner at last. Then I'll be off, said the doctor. Harry, Martha, come along. Carthers shook his head. My place is here with the king. Quite right, said the doctor. Come along then, Martha. No, said Challoner. I'll play fair, you agreed, said the doctor. A deal's a deal, even for shape-changing planet stealers. I agreed that you could leave, Doctor, Challoner told him. Nothing was said about the human female. Miss Jones is my ward, my valued companion. I need her with me. She stays here, said Challoner. And remember, Doctor, your good behavior guarantees her good health. The doctor gave Martha a worried look. Go on, Doctor, she said. I'll stay here and look after Harry. The doctor knew that he had no choice. He needs the TARDIS and his freedom of action. Right, he said. Well then, when I'm finished in London, I'll come to Balmoral and pick you up. And remember, Professor Challoner, her good health guarantees your good health. Challoner seemed unworried by the threat. The Judoon captain will escort you to the gates, Doctor, he said. Doctor pulled Martha into a hug, shook Carthers' hand, and bowed to the king. See you all soon, he said. Followed by the Judoon captain, the doctor left the room. In the main door, the Judoon captain produced and operated a device that opened a path through the force field. The doctor looked up from the enormous form behind him. I've always believed that the Judoon were honorable, he said. From within the dark helmet above him came a deep rumbling voice. Judoon honor is without flaw or stain. Come off it, said the doctor. What are you doing mixed up in an act of piracy like this? Judoon always operate with full legal authority. The path through the force field will close in 3 Earth minutes. The captain turned and tramped away down the corridor. Conversation over, thought the doctor. He turned and hurried through the force field. It took him some time to find the TARDIS. He'd come out of a different exit, and all the dunes looked very much alike. He found it at last and stood at the top of the dune, looking down at the castle in the desert. He was waiting to see if Challoner would keep his promise. A blur of the force field faded, and air shimmered, and the castle faded away. Minutes later, the tall spaceships of the Judoon rose slowly into the sky. Doctor stood by the TARDIS, lost in his thoughts. He was alone in the vast desert, except he remembered for some very confused desert raiders somewhere in the far distance. By now the Judoon spaceships together with the Balmoral Castle should be back in Scotland. The Doctor decided to go see. His original plan had been to go to London and deal with the machine Trelawney had built in the laboratory, but Martha was still in Balmoral. And if he succeeded at the laboratory, a message might reach Trelawney and Martha would die. So he could do nothing until Martha was free, which meant going to Balmoral and rescuing her. Something else was bothering the Doctor. A brief exchange with the Judoon captain. The Judoon were an honorable breed, at least according to their own rather particular standards. And they never lied. They saw that as a crime. Yet the Judoon captain had insisted they were acting legally, which was impossible. The only way to find out more was to go to the castle and ask them. Another good reason to go back to Balmoral. Doctor went into the TARDIS. A wheeze, groaning sound disrupted the peace of the empty quarter, and then faded away. The Doctor left the TARDIS, took a moment to get his bearings, and set off for Balmoral Castle. The Highlands air was refreshing after the heat of the desert. He walked on. It didn't take long to get there, and this time the castle was where it was supposed to be. But this time something else was wrong. The air was full of crackling rifle fire and thudding artillery. Full-scale pitched battle was raging around Balmoral Castle.